My name got called in front of 200 people. A pen was held out toward me. The room went quiet. My mother was smiling. I looked at that pen. I looked at her face. I set my champagne glass down on the nearest table. Then I said no, into the microphone. My family spent 3 years telling everyone I was the villain. They said I manipulated an old woman. They said I was selfish. They said I had no loyalty. If you've ever been punished for simply showing up, for doing the quiet, unglamorous work of being present, you already know how this feels. Subscribe. Because this story ends in that specific room, in front of all those people, and the ending is not what anyone planned. I do not want you to miss it. I was 29 when my grandmother Rose called me about the loft. I remember the moment exactly. I was in my studio in Capitol Hill. I was soldering a joint on a new lamp I had been building for 2 weeks. The iron was hot, my hands were steady. My phone buzzed on the work table. Rose's name appeared on the screen. She was 81% retired. She had been the dean of a university for over a decade before that. She was not a soft woman. She was precise. She chose her words the way she had once chosen faculty. Carefully and without sentimentality. She told me she was leaving me her waterfront loft in Seattle. $2 million of property. Right on the water. I asked her if she was sure. She said, "Maya, you are the only one who comes." That was the whole explanation. No speech, no conditions. Just that one sentence. She was right. I had been driving to her home every 3 weeks for 4 years. We drank tea. We watched old films. Sometimes I just sat with her while she read. My sister Chloe had visited twice in that same period. My mother Diane called on holidays and birthdays, and sometimes not even then. I told Rose I was grateful. I kept my voice level. When I hung up, I sat very still for a long time. My soldering iron cooled beside me. I did not finish the lamp that night. What nobody in that room knew was this. Diane had already been in debt for years. Not small debt, not a credit card or a personal loan. She had borrowed against the family cabin in the Cascades, a property that had been in Rose's name since 1987, a piece of land worth real money. Quiet, undeveloped, set back from a lake. At some point, Diane had forged Rose's signature to sell it. At some point, Diane had forbid into expenses in a lifestyle that looked comfortable from the outside. Rose knew. She had known for longer than any of us realized. She had said nothing because she was waiting. That is who Rose was. She collected. She had already called her attorney, a man named Silas. She had given him everything: documents, bank records, a copy of the forged signature beside her real one. Rose was not confused. She was not losing her mind. She was loading a room while everyone else assumed she had forgotten where she put things. What nobody in that room knew was that the loft was never the real story. The week after Rose called me, my mother called too. She told me to come to the family home in Queen Anne. She said we needed to talk as a family. She used the word fairness 4 times in the first 2 minutes. I sat across from her and my father in their living room. The furniture was the same as it had been my entire childhood. I noticed the small chip in the corner of the coffee table I had never seen before. Diane told me that Rose was not well. She said that older women sometimes formed unhealthy attachments. She said that I had clearly taken advantage of a lonely old woman. I asked her when she had last visited Rose. She did not answer. She told me the right thing to do was sell the loft and split the proceeds equally with Chloe. I said no. Looked at the floor the entire conversation. He did not say a single word. That was the last time I was welcome in that house. Within 2 weeks, Diane had started talking. She spoke to people in my artisan community. She told gallery owners I respected that I had pressured Rose, that I had isolated her, that I was not to be trusted. I lost 2 gallery shows that spring. One curator called me personally to let me know. She was kind about it. She said she had heard things and could not take the risk. I thanked her for telling me instead of just not calling back. I sat in my car afterward. My jaw stayed tight the entire drive home. I did not call my mother. I did not send a message to Chloe. I went back to my studio and I finished the lamp. Then Diane started calling Rose every few days. She showed up with pamphlets from memory care facilities. She filed a formal inquiry with Rose's doctor about her mental competency. The doctor found nothing of concern. Rose moved herself to an upscale retirement home in Bellevue 6 months later. Not because she was confused, because she was tired of being assessed in her own kitchen. In late 2023, a thick envelope arrived at my studio. A wedding invitation. Chloe's name on the front. 3 days later, my mother called. She said she wanted to heal things. Her voice was warm, practiced. Within 4 minutes, she had pivoted to the loft. She said a waterfront property would be the perfect wedding gift for Chloe and her new husband. She actually said that. I said goodbye and ended the call. My hands were steady. My face felt like nothing. But my chest was doing something I did not have a clean word for. People always say just cut them off and move on. But what do you do when cutting them off means watching them keep going, keep talking, keep taking? What would you have done? I am genuinely asking. A week before the wedding, Rose called me. She gave me Silas's number. She told me to save it. She walked me through what she had. She was calm. She described the forged documents the way she used to describe semester reports, methodically, without heat. I did not ask her if she was sure. I already knew she was sure. I saved the number. I memorized Silas's name. I bought a dress for the wedding, dark green, simple. I wore my glass bead earrings, the ones I had made myself 2 winters ago. I drove to the Rainier Club on a Saturday evening in November. I did not tell anyone I had spoken to Rose that week. I did not tell anyone I had Silas's number in my phone. I smiled when people greeted me. I accepted a glass of champagne. During the cocktail hour, Chloe found me near the window. She asked about transfer papers. She used the phrase our family loft. I told her no. She said, "Mom is going to handle it." I nodded and looked back at the waterfront view through the glass. They had no idea what was coming. Dinner finished. The plates were cleared. Diane walked to the front of the room and took the microphone. She called my name. I felt 200 faces turn toward me. She said she had a surprise. Her voice was bright, celebratory. She was good at this. I had watched her work a room my entire life. She held up a folder, a deed transfer folder. She held out a pen. The room waited. I walked to the front. My heels were quiet on the floor. I took the pen from her hand. I looked at the folder. Then I set the pen down on the table beside me. I leaned toward the microphone and I said, "No." The word landed in the room like something physical. Diane's expression shifted. Something underneath the bright surface started moving. She grabbed my wrist. She said my name very quietly. Then she slapped me across the face. My glass bead earring hit the floor. I heard it land. The room made a sound I had not heard before. Not quite a gasp. Something underneath a gasp. I bent down and picked up the earring. I straightened my back. I walked out of the room without looking at her. In the hallway, I called Silas. I said, "Bring Rose. Bring the files. Come now." 60 minutes later, the ballroom doors opened. Rose walked in. She was wearing her gray wool coat. Her silver hair was set. Her back was straight. She looked exactly the way she had always looked when she had something to say. She walked to the front of the room without being invited. Nobody stopped her. Nobody knew how. She did not raise her voice. She never raised her voice. She explained what had happened to the cabin in the Cascades. She named the amount. $875,000. She described the sale documents. She described her own signature beside it on a separate paper. She let the room see the difference. Silas stood behind her with a folder. Diane said her name, Rose. Just her name, like a question. Rose did not look at her. She addressed the guests directly. She said she wanted them to hear it from her while she was standing in front of them, while nobody could later claim she had not understood what she was saying. Then she said she was glad so many people she knew were there to witness it, and she stopped speaking. The room was completely still. Diane did not make a scene. That surprised me, honestly. She went very pale and very quiet. I watched something leave her face. Not guilt, not shame. Something more like the specific fear of a person who realizes the version of the story they have been telling has just run out of road. Chloe looked at her champagne glass. My father looked at the floor. Same as always. I still have the lamp I was building the night Rose called me. It sits in the corner of the loft now. I finished it eventually. Here's what I know. The family decided I was the problem the moment I stopped being useful to what they needed. That was never about me. It was never about fairness. It was about a woman who showed up quietly for years being convenient to erase. You were never the problem for caring more than they deserved. Sometimes the people who call you selfish are the ones who needed you to keep giving. Tell me something. If this had been you, would you have done the same thing? Or would you have given them one more chance? Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story right now, send it to them. They will know why. If this story gave you that feeling, that specific weight of watching the truth finally land in a room full of people who needed to hear it, subscribe. Because I have more. Stories about people who were written off and counted out, who then made sure that was the last mistake anyone made. See you in the next one.